2023. The MacBook Pro series got a tremendously significant revamp in 2021. Apple announced their switch to Apple Silicon-powered MacBooks in 2020. Instead of using outsourced chips from Intel, they decided to make their chip designs using TSMC fabs. GPUs are now made in-house instead of relying on AMD. Apple's in-house chips for their laptops are built on ARM fabrication. The CPU, GPU, RAM, and storage are soldered into one microchip. This enables effective communication between laptop parts and boosts overall performance. This results in better power efficiency as well. ARM isn't perfect since it lacks proper dual boot capability, and none of the internal components, like RAM or storage, can be manually upgraded. Repair costs are pretty high too. There are three primary reasons for Apple to move to their chips. 1. They could have more control over the upgrades each year. Until 2020, Intel's yearly gains were unpredictable and insignificant. A difference in promise and delivery led to MacBooks with severe heating problems. The entire system was inefficient. But if Apple switches to their chips, they can control the number of performance boosts they want to do each year. 2. Apple can beautifully integrate their software and hardware. If Apple's chips are used, the components will be designed to work well with others while having better efficiency per watt. 3. It gives Apple higher profit margins. They no longer have to pay a cut to Intel or AMD, so they're now able to manufacture laptops with a cheaper production cost, but they still charge pretty high prices. This gives them higher profit margins per unit sold. Apple might launch the next generation of MacBook Pros in the fall of 2023, powered by their latest chips. Apple aimed to transition all its products to Apple Silicon in 2 years. They were mostly successful, except for the Mac Pro. MacBook Pro 2023 specifications. The laptops Apple launched in 2022 had significant upgrades to performance and display quality. They swapped to high-quality mini LED 120Hz screens, considered industry-leading. For the next generation of MacBook Pros, Apple might make iterative improvements to mini LED technology that reduces blooming, increases brightness, and plays HDR content better. We might see resolution bumps too. Iterative upgrades to all the essential laptop components will indeed be made. Several reports point to improved RAM, more specifically, better bandwidth and speeds. LPDDR5X RAM is a decent improvement. It takes the current rates, 200 GB per second for the M1 Pro and 400 GB per second for the M1 Max, 300 GB per second for the M2 Pro and 600 GB per second for the M2 Max. The improvement can be noticed in daily use when transferring heavy files. We might see an upgrade to 96 GB of RAM for the flagship models. This is an upgrade from 64 GB to the best M1 Max chip. We have already observed a similar trend. The M1 chip for the MacBook Air maxed out at 16 GB RAM. But the M2 MacBook Air goes up to 24 GB. For the M2 Pro chip, we'll probably see up to 48 GB and 96 for the M2 Max. GPU? The existing GPUs are powerful enough, and the upcoming ones are said to have more cores, while being more efficient with power draw. Going by Mark Gurman's reports, the GPU is a point of focus this time. It makes sense, since the M2 had a more significant boost in the GPU department instead of the CPU department. The number of cores went from 8, at most, on the M1 to 10 for the M2. If we analyze this pattern, the M2 Pro could move from 14/16 cores to 18/20 cores. The Max could go from 24/32 to 30/38 cores. Note that these are initial assumptions. Since the actual launch is several months away, the accuracy of these predictions is currently unconfirmed. CPU. A leaked MacBook has already appeared on Geekbench 5. It's named Mac 14,6. In multi-core performance, it scores 14,888. Earlier leaked scores portrayed a 13,855 score for the same model. The M1 Max MacBook Pro holds the current maximum score by a MacBook at 12.100. The leaked scores are predicted to be of the 12-core M2 Max chip. Mark Gurman predicts that the M2 Max will have slight clock speed boosts and more cores. 2 extra CPU cores will improve performance. However, the Geekbench 5 score improvement isn't significant, so a difference in daily use might not be evident as far as peak performance under stress goes. Battery life on MacBooks and their sustained performance when unplugged is awe-inspiring. We can expect the same from upcoming models. Battery life improvement might come from using more efficient chips. 3 nanometers or 5 nanometers? A highlight feature for these MacBooks might be TSMC's 3 nanometers fabrication. The M1 is based on 5mm TSMC fabrication, and the M2 is based on the same. The A16 Bionic SoC for their iPhone 14 Pros moved to 4 nanometers fabrication. We can expect the new MacBooks to make a move to 3 nanometers. The benefit of smaller transistors is that you can cram more of them into a smaller package, which improves CPU performance. Mass production of 3 nanometers chips from TSMC might have already started in Q3 2022. If TSMC runs into further hurdles with the difficult to mass-produce 3 nanometers chips, Apple might have to stick with an advanced 5 nanometers fab for the M2 Pro and M2 Max chips. Popular YouTuber Max Tech predicts that the sole reason why M2 hasn't moved to 3 nanometers is that the better fab is reserved for the Pro and Max. Since 5 nanometers chips have a better yield rate, it's better suited for mass production. Apple has booked TSMC's 3 nanometers chips for the M2 Pro, M2 Max and M3 chips, according to an older report from MacRumors. Reliable leaker Ming-Chi Kuo predicts that if TSMC runs into trouble with the yield rate for mass-producing 3 nanometers chips, Apple will stick to the 5 nanometers advanced fab. Design. For some reason, Apple decided to put a notch on their MacBooks. They moved from their older wedge-shaped design to a square design. They also brought some older ports back. The iconic scissor switch keyboard works very well, unlike the awful butterfly keyboards. The notch makes the laptops stand out among others but is a real eyesore. Since it lacks Face ID, the addition of a notch feels pointless. For 2023 models, analysts expect this design to stick. No significant changes will be made on the outside.